We did it.
We made it, barely. We're here.
Oh my gosh. I was literally driving. I missed the first left turn and I was like, okay, just gonna cut off 3 more minutes of my time. It's fine. It's fine. We're gonna make this. But I needed a burger.
Nice. It's like that one time we went live right when I was taking a bite of my burger. We didn't do the countdown. I was like, this is what I do. Welcome.
It's so funny because I was going through the videos and trying to organize them and things, and literally that was the video that I caught, and I was like, why is this one different? And I'm like, oh, I didn't do the countdown.
Yep. And everyone got to see. I'm expecting a countdown. I have 30 seconds to chew this bite. And
yeah, 30 seconds to get my life in order.
That was a while.
Awesome. We made it. So today we're doing house rulers, and it's part 3, but we're doing the 4th house. So we're going to start splitting up into small bite-sized pieces so everyone can catch up, and there's plenty of time to ask questions. So if you are watching, please make sure you ask the questions. And I think I'm supposed to press another button here or something. Yeah, I don't know how to do that, so this is good enough. We're doing the best we can. All right, so I'm Julie. I'm with the Academy of Logic and Light. This is Elle. She teaches our astrology. We are a peer-to-peer education platform that empowers students and teachers to practice their spirituality without indoctrination. We have in-person events and online community events. Our full moon circle should be coming up pretty soon, which I'm excited about, and that will be our 2nd ever full moon event online. And we just did a remake of our in-person class for the vision boards, and I wish you could have come. It was really fun.
No, me too. My life has been so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a lot.
The world feels wild right now.
Yes. So if you feel yourself overwhelmed with things, it is the time. It is, Mars Capricorn energy went through, and it is full-fledged. So it's good. You really need to channel that energy and focus on it and make it the best, because we don't always have that. And I appreciate it. I love being busy. I love it. It does something for my soul. Yeah. I have so much to do. I'm so happy. I know that's not possible.
Adding a lot more to my plate for sure, but I'm here for it. I like to be busy.
Yeah, no, it's a good feeling. So
all right, I'm gonna run a little intro and then we'll get started.
Nice. I need to update my picture from when I don't have pink eyelashes, because I look very different. I'm like short hair and blonde with fake lashes, and now I'm like this hippie with no makeup on that people are like, ooh.
I know. I was like, I should probably try harder, but I don't want to.
No, it's fine. Today is just I'm gonna show up and be my best that I can be, and I'm sorry that I look like a burn victim, but I'm here. It's the no eyelashes. I don't have mine are so blonde that when I don't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say, which I'm okay with because I really don't give a shit. But
I hope these came out right, because I just put them in here very quickly. All right, cheat sheet's still here. So you guys know you got to memorize your glyphs. If you want to take a screenshot of this, eventually it will be on our Patreon and our Etsy when I find the time. And then it tells you about the houses and kind of what they represent and what they're ruled by.
It's a very important thing to have, because you can literally take your whole chart and just find the theme of each thing in your life and what the house ruler is and kind of go in that direction. So, Kayla, you're so sweet.
Thank you, Kayla.
She's like the most gorgeous human that ever walked the earth. So I don't even want to hear it, but thank you. She's like Earth goddess, like Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. They're all the top 3. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
Wow, all the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Earthy. She's got them all.
Nice. All right. So you said that the 4th house was one of the big ones, right?
It's a big one. It's a big one. So in astrology, typically the 1st house is the most important because it is self, and without, hold on, my computer's, it does it every time, I swear, within like minutes of this.
That's so weird.
Live every single time. So okay. So the 1st house is, the most important because it's self, and without your human being yourself, you're nothing. So that is like crucial, number 1. And then the 10th and the fourth are kind of, I personally like the 10th, but they're equal. And sometimes people say the 10th is the most important in the sense of like that's kind of where you go in life. That's your career. That's your public role. It's the reputation that you create for yourself. And the fourth house is more beginning years that are crucial if you think about it as far as foundations and development and things like that. So it is a big one. Earlier years and how it structures you for life and for your career. So the fourth is big, and then there's the seventh, which is relationships, which is probably one of the main four important houses, but also not as strong importance as the first three that I just mentioned. So,
and before we start diving into it, what if your fourth house is blank?
So your fourth, so you would look at the house ruler and what kind of energy that possesses. So let's start with the fourth house and what the fourth house entails. And I'll kind of read off of this. I mean, we all know that it's family, it's home life, it can be inheritance, nurturing others we have in here. It can be past, land, traditions, and privacy. I mean, again, the fourth house is below, we talk about the ascendant, that line, it's below the line. It does have this more private way about its energy, but again, it's family life, it's home, it's foundations, it's the beginning of your upbringing and things like that. So when it's empty, there could be a lacking of a strong family bond, or like I'd rather have an empty fourth house than Saturn in my fourth house. So just because you have planets in there doesn't mean that it's or if you don't have planets in there, it doesn't mean that it's like the worst thing, because there are worse things you can have, like Saturn always teaching you the lessons through family. Is your Saturn in the fourth house?
No, I just looked. I was like, oh no, my Saturn's in the third house.
And yeah, so it could just be that there's not a lot of energy going on there. It also can depend. So what is your fourth house ruler, which we're about to go into that, and where that connects to in your chart may be a clue or a significance in your family life. So for instance, if you have a, say Cancer is your fourth house ruler and your moon is in the 12th house in Pisces, which is very likely what could happen, depending, because you probably have an Aries ascendant. But that could be very heavy, and it could be very emotional trauma. Say you have no planets in the fourth house, but you have Cancer, ruling that house, and then you go to look for what your ruler of Cancer is, and it's the moon in the 12th house, which is of loss and just certain things that the 12th house can bring. It can be very negative, and it can be very detrimental to your life, and cause a lot of stress and a lot of emotional problems for you. But if you had, or say a Sagittarius ruled your fourth house and your Jupiter was in Capricorn, or say it was in the 10th house, we won't say Capricorn because that's not how that works, but it would be probably very beneficial. You probably were very supportive. You may have grew up in a family of people that worked a lot, but it didn't bother you. And like you have those kids that are like, oh, my parents worked so hard and I envied them and they were amazing. And then you can have that same kid with the same set of parents who were like, oh, my parents was work and I never saw them, and they're in complete shambles over it. So depending on how things align in your chart, that's kind of how you perceive things. It kind of taps into your sensitivity, what you're sensitive to, what you're not. Certain kids are more sensitive to others, and those are the ones that really take in the trauma, and a lot of times go down the wrong path because they're trying to heal something. So it can all depend. It depends on your house ruler. If there's nothing in there, if you look at where that house ruler is placed in your chart, I mean, again, that if it were in the 12th house and it was the moon, it could really signify loneliness. It could signify that you just really are an introvert, and that you spend a lot of time alone. You don't really spend a lot of time with family. It can go either way. Or it can be full of things, and you have, Saturn in there, and it's really strong aspect with certain things in your chart. And it could be really just a really shitty family life. So just because you have empty houses don't discard that, because that doesn't mean it's less potent in your life.
Yeah. So like, for example, this one, fourth house, but it looks like it's ruled by Leo.
Mm-hmm.
So then you would go to the sun, right, in the 12th house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Which is a little different than the moon. I just said
Yeah.
I literally just gave this example, but with the moon. And so this one being a little different. So again, there was probably a lot of secrets in this family. There were probably a lot of truths hidden, just, you know, because that 12th house can be secrets and just different things. And how this person shows up is in a very I would say this person could be very like an empath, and then also just, you know, a lot of secrets with their family life is how I would look at this.
Interesting.
A lot of deception, things like that. And you know, if it comes to head, maybe things that they don't even know about yet. I don't know. How old is this person?
Younger than me, that's all I know.
Yeah. So there might be things that could show up later that they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it doesn't have the year, but younger than me.
Taurus
Okay,
and
interesting.
Gemini moon. Oof.
Yeah.
Curious.
All right.
Okay. So first we're going to go through the 4th house, and if the rulers are in each house. We do this each week. We're trying to take it very slow because it is really challenging to wrap your brain around it. So we're going to, if you want to pull out your birth chart, we're going to walk you through on how to find your 4th house ruler, and then we'll go through the houses with it. So this is what your birth chart looks like. Everybody's is the same. You're not going to have a 4th house at the top and someone has a 4th house on the bottom. The houses are always in the same place. There's no moving of the houses. So you look counterclockwise underneath your 4th house. Julie is going, she's circled. It's right there. And then you're going to go on the cusp, which is that line that goes straight in front of it. It's the beginning piece of the pie.
Not this one.
Yes, no, that was it.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sorry. The line that's right where the moon is like touching, that's the cusp.
Oh, okay. This one.
You were on it. So that's going to be your cusp. So whatever that is touching, which in this case, it's going to be Scorpio. So you look at the glyph there, you'll see that's the Scorpio glyph, and that is the ruler of the 4th house. So when you're looking on your chart, so when I say your chart ruler, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, or if you are looking at traditional astrology, this is where it gets tricky. We've talked about this, so this is where it's kind of your job to see which one resonates more with you, because it can be Pluto or it can be Mars, depending on which, if you go off of the traditional astrology, it would be Mars. But modern, we say Pluto. I always kind of feel Pluto energy with Scorpio, but I also grew up learning traditional and modern, so I could see both for sure, because if you've ever met a Scorpio, they can be very warlike.
Yeah, that's a description for them for sure.
I think I'm more scared of Scorpio than Aries, to be honest.
Yo, I just saw it on Instagram thing, and it was like, hey, just so everyone knows, if you're trying to conceive a child right now, you would be birthing a Scorpio, so warning sign. I'm like, they don't give warning signs for any other conception times.
Just Scorpio. You know,
Scorpio babies.
We're actively trying to have a baby, and we were really hoping like Libra was going to be it. We were so stoked. We're like, okay, Libra, we're doing this at the right time. Hopefully we get pregnant. Nothing. I'm like, we were really trying for an Aquarius with Salem, and she is a Pisces. Not that we don't love our Pisces. She is amazing. The Sage and I are Gemini and Libra. We are not the most emotional. We are not emotional at all. And we conceived the zodiac. So I would not be surprised if I get pregnant and we have Scorpio.
Oh my gosh. But you would be the perfect mother for a Scorpio.
You think so?
Yeah.
I have 2 kids with Scorpio moon, and I'm just wondering what I did.
You'd be good at it because you embrace so many different, like the darks and the light. You got this.
Yeah, right. I'm like, murder them. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding. The Scorpio moon children are very good. They're very, chill, but very emotional. And I don't know what it is that I've created that, because Lord knows that I do not hold that in my chart. But anyways, so Scorpio, if that's your 4th house ruler, then you're going to look, and we're going to go through all the signs and the houses so that you can, to help kind of point you in the right direction, because I know that it's like, wait, this is ruler of this and the planet is here in the house, and it's confusing. So we'll go back to the 1 through 6, and then I'll try to hit all the signs while we're doing like the first house, and then you can kind of see what what the ruler of the sign is, so that you can kind of put it together in your chart. So, and I do this every time. I got to get it together because I have to remember my verbiage to make it where it's not confusing. So if your 4th house ruler is in the 1st house, so if that sign that is on that cusp that we just talked about is in the 1st house, then it is going to be, you really identify yourself with family. This is going to be connecting you, who you are, you as a person, and family. And so it can depend on what that sign is. So if you have Aries in the 4th house, you're going to look for your Mars, and you're going to see where Mars is in your chart. And say your Mars, we're going to use 1st house examples for this. So Aries, Mars is in the 1st house. And then you're going to kind of look and see what that sign is in, and you're going to correlate the 1st house with the 4th house, and passion, what your drive looks like. Maybe your family helps you a lot with your drive and how you maneuver things, or maybe you have siblings, and it's not so much siblings, it's more family, because the 3rd house is sibling energy, right? But maybe you work out with your dad or your mother, or maybe there's like this closeness with physical health, and or the drive that you maybe your parents are sick, and that is the drive that gives you to like have your will to make have the drive that you have ultimately. So if you have your 4th house ruler in the 1st house, you need to connect yourself, your true who you are, and how that correlates with your family, and look at the signs and see, how they react to one another. So whether you have a good positive aspect in the 1st house, or if it's a square, it can be challenging. You got to look at those things. And I know we haven't talked a ton about aspects, but I feel like we've talked enough to know that it's a good energy, or it flows or it doesn't flow. And so whether that be the case, whether you have to find ways around obstacles or not, that's kind of your study to do of your chart. So that's kind of the 1st house. And this kind of goes into, it can also give you property gains through real estate transactions. I like the fun facts. I like those little tidbits in there. It's nice. So if your ruler of the 2nd house, or if your 4th house ruler is in the 2nd house, this gives you, I would say, a very promising, depending on what it is, but promising with possessions, comfort. If you have, say your ruler, we're just going to go through, say your 4th house ruler is at Taurus, and your Venus is in the 2nd house in Pisces, and it gives you this like really structured upbringing. There was consistency, there were great snacks in the pantry, there were, just parents showing up, doing the right thing, being kind. I would say this is a placement for a very good home life. And so if you have your 4th house ruler in the 2nd house, and it happens to be Taurus, and Venus is, there in the 2nd house, it's very, very, that's a very good connection to make. And it makes it very easy, loving, just amazing childhood. So if your 4th house ruler is in the 3rd house, many changes to residence. So if you think about 3rd house energy, it's short travels, it's shifting, it's changing. It's also siblings. I'm going to say this could be a really good placement for somebody who has great siblings. If like Gemini is your 4th house ruler and your Mercury is in the 3rd house, there's probably really great communication with siblings, or finances, family life, communication. You guys are always in communication. You guys are always maybe that family that stays up on like the hottest trends, just different things that associate the 4th house and the 3rd house. Neighborhood, growing up consistent, the same neighborhood. You didn't switch houses. You And if you did, it didn't like cause this turmoil. It was fine. You were fine with switching and moving and change of residence. But fundamentally, as a child, this isn't so much changing so much as it is like you, depending on what your planet is that shifts and changes. Like if it's Mercury, say, let's think of one that's kind of that moves a lot. Mercury could be one that moves a lot. But if you had Mars, say that your fourth house is ruled by Aries and then your Mars is in the third house, you could have had a lot of moving and things going on in your childhood that caused a lot of shift. But again, I don't think that it wouldn't be so much of a challenge. Whereas if you had Cancer ruling your fourth house and your moon was in the third house, if you had a lot of shifts, that could cause, a lot of grief and a lot of uncertainty and this kind of nervousness in a person. But it's less likely, depending on other things in your chart, that happened, that you got moved around a lot, even with that placement. Because if your Cancer rules the fourth house, it's not very likely that you moved a lot. Just depends on what signs are where, whether you moved a lot, and it would have been really easy for you. I kind of backtracked. So I was like, but it could mean this. It could go. Sometimes, you just got to look at it. And the other aspects, this is where when you look at a whole chart, it comes in very handy, because then you're like, oh, but I can see this, so this, they didn't move a lot, or oh, this is a weird aspect, so they probably did move a lot and it was probably unsettling. Like that's how you kind of pivot through a birth chart and figure out like how to read it. So it's hard sometimes to do these without the other elements. So okay, if your fourth house ruler is in the fifth house, fourth house. Sorry, I lost it. I was like, wait, did I see fourth house in there? But
yeah, it's in its own house. It took away the number.
Own house. Yeah, no, I was like, wait, I don't see I looked for the numbers. I'm a weirdo like that. But if your fourth house ruler is in its own house, it is a very lucky placement to have. So we did Taurus, Gemini, so we're on Cancer. If you're Cancer, if your fourth house ruler is Cancer and your moon is in the fourth house and it has all these trines going on in the chart, it can be very beneficial. It can be a good father. It could be a good mother. It could be just a all around good foundation and structure that you have with your family life. So happy placement. So it's always good to have the ruler of the house ruler in the same house. Typically, there can be some that might be challenging, but most of the time it's really good.
Depends on the aspects as well, right?
Yes. How they're speaking to each other, how they get along or not. If your fourth house ruler is in the fifth house, this one would probably be more of a challenging one depending on what it is. So we went through Cancer. So let's say Leo. Say you have a Leo ruler of the fourth house, and your sun, because the sun rules Leo, is in the fifth house. It can be how you want to shine and how you want to be seen to the world. It can be one of those placements, depending on other things, where your family's not supportive of your role that you want to play in. I wanted to say society. It's not so much society, it's just who you are. Maybe you're creative, maybe you're a gypsy or a hippie, or just so, oh, I'm not supposed to say gypsy, sorry. Maybe you're a hippie and you have this free, it's hard for them to accept you. Like, I just watched Coco. Have you seen it? It's where the kid wants to be Coco. Yeah, he wants to be a musician, and his family, they're all shoemakers, and they're like, no, you can't be a musician because the guy ran off. I actually died, but
the bad guy's name was my ex-boyfriend, and it just made so much sense.
Oh, not at all makes sense. The red flags were there, Julie. You just didn't see
them. I know. Yeah, for 6 years.
Right. Well, that's just an example of like, if you like, and that's the perfect example, because musician, artist, fifth house energy, the sun, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you have a voice. And then if you have, this house, fifth house, fourth house ruled by a fixed sign, because Leo is fixed, there's no budging, there's no moving, there's no, it's harder for them to be more open to change, or just a different way of living. It may not be what they're used to. And it doesn't even have to be traditional. It can be the complete opposite. It could be you were raised by a bunch of hippies and you want to go to a corporate job, and they're just like, why would you do that? You know, it's just not accepting. But it's typically not that, because the 5th house is creative. It's creative and fun and artsy and lighthearted, and it's typically the other way around. So I'm just trying to use examples that don't make any sense, but that's fine. We're here for it. Okay, so if your 4th house ruler is in the 6th house, this one, we're going to use Virgo because we're just going through the list, because I'm trying to give every example of every sign so you guys can find it. This one can be a little challenging. So Virgo ruling the 4th house, and if you have Mercury in the 6th house, it can be, there can be a lot of health issues that correlate to your family heredity. Like, it can really, and that's kind of what this is saying. It's actually kind of perfect in the sense of you can carry on a lot of diseases, or just disease is not the word I was looking for. Viruses, like cancer, like people in your family that have cancer, and there's a lot of them, and you grow up seeing that, and you grow up being around it, and your DNA, it's part of you. This is that kind of, I don't want to say luck, but just that's what happens a lot of times with this placement. But it also can be that you take care of your family. It doesn't have to be a disease or something. It can be more you are the one who cares for your family and takes care of everyone, makes sure everyone's got everything together, because that 6th house energy and Mercury, the way you think, is very strong. And so if your Mercury is in the 6th house, you probably have this really detailed, organized way about you that your family really probably values and could need, but you take care of the family. This is also another thing that can kind of correlate with this placement. So it doesn't have to be disease. So if you have this placement, I'm not saying you have cancer or diabetes, whatever your family, constantly has gone through in the past, you might be the one who takes care of them. This could be a different role depending on different aspects in your chart. That's what's going to signify this. Just watch if you have your Mercury in the 6th house. Let's see, and your 4th house is Virgo. It would probably be Scorpio. And so just make sure that your 12th house wasn't Taurus. I don't know. Just what if your 12th house, depending, like Saturn and Taurus, things could happen, that you kind of, I'm just trying to give like different little crumbs to like help you think, like, okay, if my 4th house ruler is Virgo and my Mercury is in the 6th house, and it could mean, disease and things of the family, what would correlate that? Like, what would I think would make that, either good or bad? And a lot of times, oppositions can be good or they can be harmful. In the event that it would be a Scorpio Mercury, which is most likely what it be if your Virgo is ruling your 4th house, it would be most likely Scorpio. Could be Libra, could even be Sagittarius, depending on how the planet, how the signs align. And then you could look at, okay, well, the opposite of the 6th house is the 12th house, so you jump there and you see what the opposite is. And if you have a Saturn in Taurus, it could be, you see how I'm connecting the opposite of where it would kind of lay. And I know that's probably a lot to digest. I'm just trying to help look at things and how to kind of draw different aspects. And I'm using an opposition because that's the easiest. It's the complete opposite of the wheel. I mean, I could tell you a square. We could look at maybe, a Leo placement up in the, some degrees away, but that I feel like would be challenging. Opposition is directly across. So that's just kind of how you start to piece things together. When you start to look at, okay, my house ruler is here, and this is, it's the planet that rules it is in my 6th house, and I want to know if this is of the family. That's how you're going to tell, is you're going to correlate follow where it goes and the aspects of that particular planet. So Sorry, I'm just trying to be helpful, but I think I confuse a lot of people. I feel like you were following me, but you also really know astrology, and so I think it's easier. If you don't really know astrology and you want me to break that down more and explain that, I'm happy to. It's just kind of following where in your chart things connect to other things and how it aligns and what it means and how, if it means you're going to be, you know, the ruler of your family and the organizer and the structured, and that's how you can figure that out. Yeah. Food for thought. All right. If your 4th house ruler is in the 7th house, so we're going to go to Libra because we just did Virgo. So say Libra is your 4th house ruler and your Venus is in the 7th house. So that one's nice. If you think about it, your 4th house family ruled by Libra, balance. If there's a lot of tact there, aesthetically pleasing, just beauty, and then you have your Venus in the 7th house, which of relationships is very beneficial. When you have Venus in the 7th house, it makes relationships a little easier. Typically, depending on other things, you could have like a Saturn square your Venus, and that's not fair. But typically, if you have Venus in the 7th house, it's beneficial. It also gives you a way with relationships that it flows and there's a balance. And so typically what that looks like is either your family's really close knit and you guys are really close and like you marry people and they become family and you're like your brother-in-laws, your sister-in-laws, they're all family, you all do everything together. It's this perfect, beautiful, like when you guys take family photos or your Christmas photos, it's like, man, that's that family. They're just so together. It's not. I mean, it appears to be very beautiful because no one with all this Venus Libra energy wants to talk about their problems or bad things that have happened. They sweep everything under the rug and we are just fine and peachy. And so there can be a lot of that. But, I mean, I feel like as long as you don't have an issue with that, you're fine. But I feel like a lot of people do. So it can be challenging if you have a lot of hard aspects. But if not, you're just flowing harmlessly and everything is great, and it's a Venus ruled over the 4th house is always, just positive thing to have, typically, depending on other aspects. But typically it's very positive and very, I would say childhood was just a nice house, nice clothes. You were brought up in a well-behaved home and that kind of energy. So that's the 4th house, that Venus energy over the 4th house. Whew. Any questions so far? Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm like, I didn't bring my water down here. I messed up.
Oh no. So mine, wow, if I could talk. My 4th house is in Scorpio, which you said could either be Pluto or Mars. My Pluto sits in the 3rd house of siblings and communication. And then I could also choose what resonates with me as well. My Mars sits in the 6th house, which is the Virgo energy of health, which I struggle with both health and siblings.
Yeah, and it may connect. I mean, it may connect really for you for both because your mental health and how your family has, not treated you like that. They treated you poorly,
affected
but how
me.
Family, affected you. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The words today. How they've affected you affects your mental health. How your siblings in the relationship, that's difficult and it definitely. But I could see where both could resonate for you for sure.
Yeah. So. And then coming back to, sometimes I get confused. Coming back to this one, giving you like a little break while we look. This one is also Scorpio, so we'd look at this. Pluto also sits in the 3rd house, and then this Mars sits in the 9th house. That's not Mars. Yeah, it is Mars. This Mars sits in the 9th house, so it would either be that sibling energy or the 9th house we're about to cover.
Which would be like a struggle with like philosophy or studies or education, traveling long distance. I've literally had an astrologer go so deep into my chart that they're like, you can fly out of the country, but you're probably going to have difficulties getting back in. And I'm like,
oh,
and I know. I have a difficulty. I used to travel to El Paso all the time for work, and it was like I always had difficulties getting back to Oklahoma just from El Paso. So I'm like,
Wow.
you know what? I'm
Interesting.
gonna just stay in the U.S. for a while and until my name gets all sorted out because I have like 12 different names. My mom was on drugs when she had me. I don't know what else to tell everybody.
Oh my God.
We couldn't get it right. It's spelled so many different ways with so many different things, and
Oh my gosh. Well, I just learned something new about you every week.
I know. Well, my husband gets so frustrated. He's like, why do we have to go through this every time we go to the airport? I'm like, look, I don't know which name to put down sometimes.
Yeah, for
Not
real.
my ID, but you know.
All right.
Anyway, so that's how detailed it can be, though. That's how
Yeah.
someone will look at your chart and say, oh, good girl, don't leave the country because you might not get back in. So my first outing of the country is definitely going to be Costa Rica.
Oh, hell yeah. Costa Rica's great. I lived there for a minute.
I know. I want to live there so bad.
I mean, I only lived in San Jose, so I can't really like say too much, but you know.
Is that not like
San Jose? You know, cities are just cities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but still,
the beaches are where it's
the
at.
culture's got to be different, even in the city.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, don't ruin my hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I mean, there's like definitely like iguanas like running around in the city.
Oh wow. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go into if your ruler of the 4th house is in the 8th house. So if Scorpio is over your 4th house and your Pluto or Mars, depending on which one you look at, is in the 8th house, this is going to give you a lot of depth with family. You might experience a lot of death or a lot of transitions as a kid. This can be a placement of, you know, a religion, maybe a darker religion, being kind of the ruler of your, you know, theme of your life, which again, this might even tie into yours with that Scorpio being over the 4th house, because it does associate with like organized religion in a way, because when you think about it, the occult, the darkness, and it's like a spiritual house too. So that on top of like the spirituality, and maybe there's a darkness in people. A lot of times I see that people have this darkness and they think religion is what's going to save them, and that's why they need it so heavily. Like they have to have these rules, they have to have these stipulations, they have to live by this guideline in order to be good, because without it, they might, I don't want to say evil, but they're scared that they're not worthy or they're going to be good. Like that's a lot of times how this house ruled by Scorpio can really intertwine with other places in your chart, is that the 4th house family being hovered over with such a dark, you know, sign. And when you look at where those rulers of that sign is in your house, it can really indicate what, if it's really dark, really heavy, or if it's really light and easy. So definitely can be very challenging when you see any water sign over a water house. It kind of emphasizes like this emotion and depth and feeling and intenseness that, I don't know. Aries is my 4th house ruler, so, and Mars is in the 9th house, so I'm chilling. But it's not like that for everyone, and you know, a lot of times family is everything to people, and I don't get that because mine wasn't that way. But it's like I watch people sacrifice their whole lives for their family, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm that person, and I feel bad. I mean, for certain people in my family, maybe like my sister, absolutely,
right?
You know, but I mean, I just don't. I'm not locked in like that, and so it feels fucked up to say for people like, oh, we have a good family and this is what we do, and it's like, if your family's toxic, or if you need to relocate, or if you need to do something different than your family approves, like at what point do you live for you?
Exactly. Not everybody was gifted that.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, I don't get it. But you know, it's out there. People do things. I see it all the time. My sister was kind of like that. We did not have a good family, and she would kill herself to be a good daughter and to take care. I mean, of the people that deserved it, in my opinion, they deserved it, and some people don't deserve it. And she was still there. So I don't have that kind of, I'm just like, no. So that's that kind of energy. It's a little heavier. But if you're ruler of the 4th house is in the ninth house, it does give it a little bit of a lighter energy. Again, I think we just looked at a Scorpio in the ninth house. That Scorpio makes it heavier, but if your fourth house ruler is Sagittarius and your Jupiter is in the ninth house, that is, you struck gold on that one, because that's going to be a very profitable profitable energy with, learning, education. I think of this placement as like someone with a family that's fun and learning and exciting and always on an adventure. Like, you see families like backpack through Europe together, and like, who does that? Like, that's not real. It's fake. I don't believe it. Not for a second. But I know they really exist. I know that they're out there. I just have a hard time like really knowing anyone like that has had that family. But actually, one of my good girlfriends, they lived in Kauai and they did a bunch of stuff together. So that was kind of cool. But this is that kind of energy. If you have your fourth house, Sagittarius rules your fourth house, and your Jupiter is in a very lucky spot, like the ninth house, then, that's beautiful and good for you. If your Jupiter, yeah, great. I'm glad you had a great family life and a fun parent. What it must have been like. My parents were not fun at all. They weren't fun. You'd think with them being like drug addicts, they would have been like, it was fun sometimes. No, I don't remember. I don't recall.
No, I don't think I've ever heard that perspective before.
I would have just thought there would have been like some time during my childhood, like we would have been like laughing and having a good time. And no, it's always kind of intense. Mm-hmm. But I've appreciated it as an adult, honestly, because now I'm like, eat, chill, But yeah, no, I always think of this placement as someone who is very fortunate in their family life and inheritance. Again, these are people that backpack through Europe. They don't even really have jobs. They live on a boat and they travel and they have millions of dollars and they leave them to you at the end. Like that's my best analysis for this house placement. If your fourth house ruler is in the 10th house, so you have Capricorn over your fourth house, and your Saturn is in the 10th house, that one can be a little challenging, because if you think about it, the fourth house, Capricorn, it's its opposite. It's the 10th house ruler. So when Capricorn is the ruler of the fourth house and Saturn is in the opposite of that in the 10th house, it's most likely Cancer. So it's most likely that you're, and it may not be, it could be Leo, it could be Gemini, but most likely your 10th house ruler is going to be Cancer. And that's going to give complete opposite. And it's kind of like Capricorn is the provider and like the father of the zodiac, and Cancer is the mother. And where you have them flipped reverse roles, where the fourth house is like family, more mother, and the 10th house is more masculine work kind of energy, it can go really good and it can create a really influential person, or it can create a lot of conflict and confusion in their role in society. What do they work? Do they not work? They may not have like a good work ethic. You would think having Capricorn over any house would be like phenomenal work ethic. But when you have Capricorn over the fourth house, it's kind of the opposite, and it can wash it out, and it can make them, I don't think I've ever met a Capricorn that wasn't a hard worker, but maybe their sun's not there. It could, this doesn't necessarily mean who they are, but if you meet someone and they just have no drive and no work ethic, this could be a placement that is like, really strong aspects in their chart, and it really could cause challenges for them in holding down a job and being, maybe possibly even a little lazy. I would say if this was like a lot of planets here, maybe not, but if it were empty, maybe. It could create lack of energy and lack of will or want to be successful, because their Capricorn, the father is down nurturing and the mother is up at the top. If you think about it as the opposite of the wheel, in the 10th house of career, it doesn't flow very easily. It's kind of backwards and it's very challenging. And it's more so, I would say, more difficult than the first house and 7th house, because they're the opposite of the will, and how they affect each other. I would say that this is even more difficult than that, because it's public role. It's not necessarily who you are, it's how you're perceiving yourself and your work ethic and all of that, and that really can cause you to crash or not be your best evolved potential self. So that's, any questions on that so far? Busting through these?
Not on my end.
Not on your end. Perfecto. Okay. So if your 4th house ruler is in the 11th house, so this would mean it, like, we're going to use Aquarius for the example here. Aquarius is your 4th house ruler. So then you're going to look at your Saturn and see where that is placed in your chart. So wherever that is, you're going to put those together and connect, is it challenging? A 4th house, anytime Aquarius is over that, it's going to give it an eccentric vibe. It's going to be just very think outside of the box type of family, home life, just a little weird, a little different, the hippies next door, that kind of thing, just different, weird, and a little off kilt. So, but if you have like your Saturn in the 11th house, again, that can cause challenges too, because Saturn could be teaching you something. So there could be this need or want more for your community or do more for your community, and it may not align with your family values, or there could be some structures there that create a lot of challenges. So, all right, here, okay. And the last one, if your 4th house ruler is in the 12th house, we're going to use Pisces. This one's going to be challenging. Maybe I should use a different one for this so that it's not so challenging, because anytime you have Pisces ruler of the 4th house, it can cause the energy to be very isolated. It could be very introverted and loner type. And especially, if you look at Neptune in the 12th house of illusions and loss. So if you have Pisces in the 4th house, I'm not saying that is like loss and you're, just emotional and this loner. I'm saying that with other things in your chart, it can really ignite and be very like, fun and have like a lightness to it. But if you have a lot of heavy placements, you may really resonate with, you're a loner. You don't really, hang out with your family. You've never really felt like, people that are like, oh my gosh, I don't even think they're my real family. I think it was adopted. It's kind of that energy. But if you had maybe your Neptune in, let's say, the 7th house, where, maybe you have really good relationships. Well, that one could be like illusion of relationships too. Maybe we'll do.
What about 4th house ruled by Scorpio, that we follow that into Mars in the 12th house?
Okay, so that one would be Scorpio energy again. Like I was saying, it's kind of heavier, and then Mars is in the 12th house. This person's drive and kind of what they how they succeed and do things, and just their initial drive is going to be based off of like a spiritual thing and a feeling thing versus like a anything else really. Like, no, they don't need to drive for like money or possessions. This is more of a drive for like wanting a better, spiritual life for themselves and others, and making other people feel seen, and just this kindness and how they do things and their drive that's going to make them like want to be better for other people, so that other people can be better.
That was perfect.
Sweet. Yeah.
That's my friend that's sitting next to me, so good job. Oh. She's the one about to put needles in my face. Say all the nice things.
Because no, she's already good. But I love that.
But I was like, oh no, not 12th house energy.
I know, but that's the thing. That's the beauty of like connecting all these two things, because I can go through this all day long with like different scenarios, but the other aspects matter, and where it's at, the degree matters. Like, I've talked about this a few times with an orb, and I'm trying to get everyone familiar with like terms, but when things are within orb of 5 degrees, when your sun is 20 degrees and your Mars is 20 degrees, like that's big. That's big. They're in the same orb. And so that, especially if they're trining or there's a square, I mean, those are things to pay attention to. Those are going to be the loudest things in a birth chart, especially off the ascendant. So just knowing the terminology and what you're looking for is ultimately like what's going to help you be able to look at a chart and be like, oh, this, and you need this, and oh wow, I need to do that. So.
Yeah. And one last question on my side.
Oh, yeah, go for one.
I got surprised because my brother, basically my Delta brother, is here, and he came in like at the same time Adrian's here, so it was kind of fun. But I have his chart in front of me too. So his 4th house ruled by Sagittarius, so he followed Jupiter to the 7th house.
Ooh, lucky in relationships.
Yeah, I'm officiating his wedding in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. So this person is, very fortunate in relationships. There's probably a nice bond with like their families of like getting along and anytime Sagittarius rules a 4th house, I'd say depending on what planets and aspects are going, I'm going to say probably a good childhood, probably a good structure or foundation for relationships, in turn makes him a good partner because he knows there was this foundation that he really has to go off of.
Okay.
I don't know. I would have to see the full chart, but I mean that's typically what happens there. So
interesting. Yeah, it seems like a lucky one.
Bad and you learned what not to do in relationships, and like that was a teacher for you, one way or another. But most likely, it was a good teacher.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Those are all my questions.
So if you have questions about your 4th house ruler, what the planet is, I went through all of them. I started with Aries, and I think that moving forward, that's probably the best thing to do is go through each one. It'll align perfectly, and so it'll bring it all back. But it's the easiest way, and that way we get to everyone's. You can see what yours is, and then I can help you connect. Like, oh, if it's Aries, Taurus, Libra, whatever, and this is how you connect it to the where. And so let us know if that's confusing, or if you think of a better way for teaching. If there's like a way you understand better, just let us know. We're open to criticism, and also like fixing the way that we're teaching if it's not resonating. So
yeah, and also if you want to use your chart as an example, just send us your birth chart information and we will keep your name out of it, but we'll pop it up and talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all that I have today. I'm like, back to here. I'm trying to think of when our next events are, and I don't have it sitting up in front of me, but you can find it on our Instagram and on our website, academyoflogicandlight.org. If you like what you've seen, like, comment, share, all the things that help us out. Oh, we got a question. I
think mine is Sagittarius, Jupiter in the 2nd house. So this one is a really good one. I think I tried to mention this. This would be someone who is lucky in possessions. So possibly, Kayla, there was luck in maybe like houses growing up, or things maybe you received a lot of gifts, or you are taken care of now in your family life. I know that her husband works and she does little things, so that might even be insinuating like your now time, like your husband taking care of you and you having nice things. Because 2nd house is Venus energy, right? Beauty, aesthetic, comfort, and you really receive that through like family, whether it be your husband taking care of you or your family growing up taking care of you. So anytime Sagittarius is over a house, it's most likely going to be beneficial. So kudos for you.
Okay. Awesome.
Mine's pretty accurate. Mine is Aries, God of War, over my 4th house, and that checks.
And I've never met someone who talks about murder more. I'm just kidding. We all do.
I'm here for it. Keep you on your
You
toes.
would be who I would want you on my side in a fight. I'll say it.
I love that. I got you.
All right, we'll be back next Monday with the 5th house. And if you guys have any questions, again, pop up, say hi to us on any of the platforms. We are active and hope to see you at one of our live events or one of our full moons. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you, Elle, for your time, and we'll see you next Monday.